Okay, welcome to our first video in a series of video tutorials on building your inventory of assets for sports sponsorship and public relations. So in this first video, what you will see is we're just trying to give you a rundown of the basics of what this thing is called an asset inventory and shed some light on this task. Just in case some of you need a bit of a help on understanding exactly what it is that we're talking about. So why do we need an inventory of assets is the first question many of you might be asking. So we know that sponsorship is selling the right to associate with a sport event or organisation. As part of that, obviously, we are selling access to a number of things of value. And what we're telling you is this inventory of assets is the key management tool for controlling that process of pricing and valuing and packaging your sponsorships. So to try and understand what we're doing, let's just use an analogy. So bear with me for a second and imagine you're the manager of a sporting goods store. So in that role, you've got many categories of goods that you sell, such as footwear, clothing, equipment, so on and so forth, and we'll have lots of things. So as your job as a manager, how do you stay on top of all these things you've got to sell and how much you should sell it for? Do you just wander around, try and keep all this information in your head and stay on top of it? How much you paid for it, how much stock you got left? Don't think so. That won't cut it. You've got to keep a stock inventory. So what would the stock inventory look like? Well, to begin with, let's just think about footwear. You've got, will it be good enough to just keep a track of all those different types of footwear you have? Oh, sorry, not all the different types, but just how much footwear you've got and how much you pay for it? No, because you've got all those different types of footwear. You've got runners, you've got boots, you've also got sport-specific categories like tennis, football, cricket, different sizes, different brands, many different things going on here. So how do you go about doing that? How do you categorise all this stock? Well, there's a pretty simple answer. What it comes down to is any items that have different physical features, different functions, benefits to the consumers, which leads to different costs and values. All these things have to be separately itemised. The same thing goes for your sponsorship inventory. So now let's move over to our sponsorship inventory and think about, okay, what sort of assets are we going to have as a sponsorship manager? These are almost limitless. I've even said in the lectures that you can literally create value out of thin air. So what I've got here is just some basic categories like the ones we've seen in lecture already. Signage, hospitality, advertising, promotion, sales and merchandising. There are many, many more of these, and the point is we're not trying to give you all of them. It's up to you to be innovative, creative, and do a little bit of research yourself and come up with all the different categories you're going to use. So we're going to have all these different types of categories. So what do we do with them? Is the question. So how do you build your inventory of assets? So what you do is you use spreadsheet software. We're telling you to use Microsoft Excel as a tool for building it. And so you begin by building your overall inventory on the first worksheet in this Excel file. So let's have a look at a basic one that I've drawn up here. So this is an overall inventory for the XYZ event, your overall inventory of assets. You see down the bottom here I've got different sheets. We'll get to those things down the track. Don't need to worry about them now, we're just building our inventory overall. You will need to put in these columns: assets, features, functions, benefits. The number of assets, the cost column, notes associated with cost, value column, and the notes associated with the value column. So the main thing we're focused on here at the moment is these first two columns. That's what you've been asked to look at and build for now. So I've got three there: signage, hospitality, and advertising. Within signage and the features along with each, that's what you have to do. So within the signage I've got prime signage and secondary signage. I've also got toilet signs, you might have scoreboard signs, any different number. signage would be a large category on its own in most typical events and sporting organisations. Hospitality, likewise, I've only got one thing here, the VIP marquee. You've probably got lots of different hospitality opportunities. And with advertising, I've put in there, and I've mentioned in lectures, that in sport events and organisations we often bring on board media partners. Here I've said I've got Canberra Times as a media partner, and they often give us assets in kind of theirs, which are ads in their paper that we can on-sell to our sponsors. These are not ads that you're using to promote your event, these are ads that you're giving to your sponsor for them to use. Okay, so here I've got an ad in the Canberra Times sports section. And we also need to fill in the features of all our different assets. And you can see here I've got, interestingly, the two features of our signs there. They're exactly the same, 3 metres by 1 metre, full colour, colour-bond metal. But the point being that we have primary and secondary. So we've got 4 of these prime signs, and they might be located on halfway at centre court, somewhere really prominent, whereas our secondary signs here, which we've got 10 of, they're a bit more obscure. So they're going to have different values. And the same thing goes here with our VIP. We've got a fully catered, with the features in there, fully catered fine dining, 20 guests, 5.4 metres. And we've got a 6 centimetre by 3 column in the Saturday edition of the Canberra Times. So everything that is going to ultimately have different values or different costs and different features, all these things need to be listed separately in our inventory of assets, and you build this big page. So that's a bit of a rundown. Thanks for watching. I hope that shed some light on this thing we're calling an inventory of assets that you have to build. And the next videos will take us through functions, benefits, and costs and values. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.